Ambassador Sunil Singhal, who is a former diplomat on the broadcast. Welcome to the broadcast, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. Sir, now Canada is saying that India is no longer, it believes that India is no longer linked to violent crimes on Canadian soil. Sir, how significant is this shift in tone and also coming amid Mark Carney's visit to India, sir?
Mela, thank you very much for inviting me. This statement which has come during the background briefing on the forthcoming visit of Prime Minister Mark Carney is a complete shift from what Prime Minister Trudeau was trying to imply all the time, and the government of India has already made its position clear. The relationship went back to worse just because of Prime Minister Trudeau. He had some other interest, some other axe to grind at that time. And for a narrow political ends, he spoiled the whole bilateral India-Canadian bilateral relationship. Of course, there are some issues because, as your report mentioned, that the Sikh terrorism is a major, major problem. And we know about the Kanishka history also, that, these perpetrators, even today, the Canadians are not able to identify and punish them, even after so many years. So there is a background, but Prime Minister Trudeau tried to, for narrow, and he tried to shift blame on us. And now, when the Prime Minister Mark Carney came, he tried to reset the relationship. You remember that he invited for G7. He invited Prime Minister Modi, and Prime Minister Modi visited Canada. That led to the reset in the relationship, and now he's visiting India, and now they are actually making their position clear that, of course, they have to take care of the domestic audience also. So what they're saying is that they believe that there's no connection at this moment, and they have not gone to the extent of saying, but they are, I think, moving in that direction. And now they're saying that no, there is a reset in the relationship. So I think, of course, Mark Carney has domestic pressure also, and also pressure from the President Trump. So they are looking for new relationships, and India is an old relationship. They are looking for Indian market and Indian support. So that is there. But I think, and now they're becoming, let me add here, so they are sensitive about India's demand or India's request that the Sikh terrorists who are hiding in Canada, and they are engaged involved with even the violent crimes. So that need to be taken care of, because that a lot of Hindu temples were attacked by these people, and all kind of activity which is going on. So now this present government led by Mark Carney is now sensitive to that. Recently the NSA visited there, and they have also worked out. So and also we are not hearing so much of noise now from these groups, which was happening during the President Trudeau's time. They were, running amok, I would say, and they were making mockery of the system, of the judicial system or the system of Canada. They were having a free run. They were doing whatever they wanted. They were attacking anybody or everybody, and there was no action by the Trudeau government, just because they were supportive of that. They were seeking support from them. But now the position has changed. So I think India is also responding accordingly, that since they are sensitive to our requirements, so we will also cooperate with them. So I think that is where we are. Thank you.
So, sir, after the Canadian official has said that India is no longer, it believes India is no longer responsible or behind violent crimes on Canadian soil. Do you think this is some sort of a reset that is that we are going to see after Mark Carney's visit to India? And additionally, also, is this a sign that Canada rather is now prioritizing India, considering the fact that there's some sort of a global trade war, and we're also in the past couple of months have seen tensions between the United States as well as Canada?
Certainly, the point you're making is absolutely correct. Let me take this U.S.-Canada tensions. We know the President Trump, since he came for last 1 year, he's been claiming that Canada is the 51st province, and the Prime Minister there is his governor. So he is, and of course he's trying to tighten the screw on the Canadian trade with the USA, And Canada, not only the security side, but also otherwise is feeling very much, constrained with the speeches or the acts of the President Trump. So now they want to get out of this, or want to soften the relationship, widen the relationship rather, with the other countries, because so far Canada has been dependent on America, USA, for its trade and security. Now they find that they cannot no longer rely on President Trump or USA for that matter. So and they find that India is one of our, one of the largest economy. We are the fourth largest at this moment, and we have a 1.5, almost 1.5 billion people of the huge market, which nobody can ignore. And when so the president, oh sorry, Prime Minister Carney is, he's made a statements also number of times that he wants to have a strong, vibrant relationship with India, because they find that they feel that India is a good counterweight for US in their trade relations, and because in India huge market. So these statements which are coming, and the sensitivity which Mark Carney is showing to the India's requirement or India's demands, it clearly shows that he wants a reset in the relationship. And India is also, I think, is a willing in that, and because it was not an issue which was raised by us. It was Canadian side which created this problem, and now they are willing to put it behind. So India will be very happy. I think will be very happy to keep it, to give the momentum to our relationship with Canada. Canada is an important country for us because we have a large diaspora in, more than 1 million people of Indian origin live there. So Canada is important from people to people point of view, as well as from the trade point of view. So, and because we have a large imports from them, for be it the crude or be it the pulses and other items, or we are talking of the nuclear material, as well as the rare earth from them. So I think and we are looking for markets. So we'll be very happy. I think India will be very happy that this Prime Minister Carney is turning the page in the relationship.
Ambassador, I would kindly request you to please stay on with me. I'm also being joined by Ambassador KP Fabian, former diplomat on the broadcast. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us this morning. So now, ahead of Mark Carney's visit, Ottawa is of course saying that it believes India is no longer linked to violent crimes on Canadian soil. Sir, how significant is this shift in tone from Canada's side?
Well, let us look at the words. India is no longer linked. Now, what does it mean? That India was earlier doing something which India has stopped doing? Or does it mean that the RCMP or any other relevant Canadian authority no longer believes that India was ever linked? So I think the expression is not a study in clarity. But that having said, what is important is that Justin Trudeau government, with or without proper evidence, had made charges against India. And the Carney government recognizes the mistake made by Justin Trudeau government and the need to repair the damage. And of course, in the larger context of Canada's problems with the United States, to which I believe 75 to 80% of Canadian exports used to go or may still be going. So that is the bigger picture. And the earlier statement made that India can be a counterweight for Canada in terms of trade with the United States is slightly inaccurate because, the relationship between Canada and United States is such. When I was there, I'm talking about the 1980s, as acting High Commissioner, Ontario, the province of Ontario, was the largest exporter to the United States, in the whole world. So that is what it is. So we all welcome Carney's visit and the decision by the Canadian government to correct the past mistake.
All right, Ambassador. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us here at